And welcome back to another riveting run. I'm KimonoBoxFox, and this is my Let's Play of The Binding of Isaac. We just had a little bit of a nasty wipe there, where we got squeezed into a corner by the room design and taken out by the husk. I am going to go with Eve once again, just to be thorough in talking about her abilities. She is my favorite character, believe it or not. Here we got quite lucky. This is Little Chub, which I would almost call him a missile type of item. As you attack at random intervals, I shouldn't say random, but at periodic intervals, he will charge in and penetrate multiple enemies, and he is quite damaging. And here are some blast assists, which are actually quite easy enemies. The completed forms are a lot more of a threat, but you don't usually run into them this early in the game, so they're kind of a freebie. In general, I always pop fire and poop. There is always a random chance of a good drop spawning, anything from pennies to white hearts, which we have actually not encountered any of those this run, but we will get a chance for that. But yeah, pop fire, pop poop, it's good for you. And that's probably the only time you'll ever hear me say anything like that. So as you can see, Little Chub can tear even tough enemies a new one. Here I've triggered Eve's second and more notable ability, the Dead Bird. When you take damage in a room, it activates an attack drone, this bird, who will home in on nearby enemies. And the cool thing with Eve is she is designed to be a boss slayer. If you get the bird on an enemy, you can just play evasively. You don't even have to worry about attacking them. And that is possibly one of the more underused aspects of Eve that people overlook when they avoid playing her. So here we have Mom's lipstick, and that increases the coverage of my tears. They actually fly further before they drop. Usually 2 range upgrades is the most you'll ever need. So not one of my favorite items to find. And we are kind of starved on resources, so we won't be able to go back for the store, the key, or that lock chest. So moving along. And again with the Oh, yeah. Was not expecting that. Even worse this time. It just keeps getting worse and worse. So here we got a level flavor, Curse of the Lost. Wrath of the Lamb added 3 curse-type effects, which alter the floor you are on. Curse of the Lost adds more rooms to the floor, so this will be a larger basement, too, than Basement 1 was. The other 2 curse effects are Curse of Darkness, which hides your mini-map, so you cannot tell where rooms are in respect to other rooms, except by your own intuition. And Curse of the Labyrinth, which merges 2 floors in a set into one giant floor, which is probably the most disadvantageous of the curses. There are a few things you can pull off with Curse of the Labyrinth more easily that we'll get to if it ever appears. Here we have our first trinket, Mom's Pearl. Trinkets are more of a passive version of Q items, pills, and tarot cards. That is to say, they take up a reserved slot, but they have an ongoing effect instead of being activated. And this trinket, Mom's Pearl, increases the spawn rate of Faith Hearts. So if you want more armor, this is the trinket to carry. Here we have a boss gauntlet, which always has a boss room type of pedestal item in it. But to get in this, I must have no more than 1 red heart filled. so I'm over. I'm overweight for this. The truck stop won't take me, unfortunately. I do not pass the inspection. But I will head down now and hunt for the loot room, and that curse room is calling out to me, what with my faith heart here. Sometimes you will want to visit that early. You might miss out on an item, depending on what you're doing. For instance, if you get really beaten up in the boss fight, and you don't have enough health to survive the curse room, you may not be able to explore it at that point, and that would be a darn shame. Especially if you got something like that brimstone I got on my last run. Here we have Horfs, which are basically bodiless gapers. They are immobile. Knockback will move them around, so if you hit them with your tears, expect them to bounce around a little bit. But all they really do is they try to shoot for your location when you get close enough to trigger them. So they're like turrets. The Joker card here. This is one of the bicycle cards, and the Joker card teleports you to the Devil or Heaven room of the floor. I will come back for that. For now, I am going to check out what other rooms I have in this floor. There is a champion Horf. There is a chance when enemies generate that you will get these larger, different colored variants. They're called champions, and they have stronger stats than regular variants. The upside to this, however, is champions also drop an item when killed, like that key. Another thing to remark about in Isaac, for the uninitiated, when you clear a room of enemies, there is a chance for an item to spawn, a drop. It'll usually be something simple, like a coin or a key or a bomb, maybe some health. Occasionally you'll get a chest, or a pill, or even a trinket. But clearing rooms always is advantageous to some degree. Even if you get like a dead-end room, there is a chance that you will get an item to appear. And now that I have an extra key to spare, I will go ahead and unlock this. And here is Lemon Mishap, which is commonly considered to be one of the lousiest items in Isaac. But you will observe that I had no spacebar item. Now I do have a spacebar item, so anything is better than nothing. And even this item, if you are very careful, or even if you sacrifice some of your health, can get in damage. It's particularly useful for segmented enemies. Chubb, Pin, and Larry Jr. are three of the best examples, because the creep will damage multiple targets as they move into range, just based on the nature of the substance. I'm actually going to go ahead and check out the curse room, and then do the boss. I feel a little bit safer with this particular floor because I do have the Joker, so if I screw up and take red heart damage, all is not lost. And I will go ahead and open up this chest, and usually when you've got a locked chest and you have keys, I highly recommend opening these. They will almost always provide a 1-for-1 or better trade-off. The worst case scenario is that they drop another locked chest, or they simply drop like a heart or something. But in this case I got 2 bombs for my 1 key, so monetarily I am still pretty well off. I might be in trouble if I get starved for keys. Here we have Gemini. Gemini is another of the original Isaac bosses, and there that only did a very small amount of damage. That would be one example of where Mishap is not fantastic, is against single fast enemies. Gemini, like Monstro, was one of the original Binding of Isaac bosses. And Gemini basically is a 2-body entity. He has the turret form, the smaller infant, who just shoots in your direction when he gets close. He's basically like a Horf, a mobile Horf. And then the Gemini body which has 2-speed movement, and he stalls after he uses his dash for a short period. So the key to Gemini is just playing keep away and not turning corners too much when he's in his accelerated mode. Most enemies can corner more quickly than you can, but do not actually run as fast as you, unless you're playing a character like Maggie, who has a slow movement speed. And there I just I juked in the wrong direction, and I did take that hit from the small infant. So now you get to see my birdie at work again. The bird can be a nice rubber banding tool for Eve. Eve is kind of a challenge character, but if you do have difficulties with the challenge, the bird will help you clean up. And there are some tools like the safety razor, which damage you to give you an added benefit. Those kind of items work well with Eve just simply because they trigger the bird. Here, we did not get the Devil Room to spawn this time, and part of that is I did take red heart damage in the boss fight. But we do have the Joker cards, so that's not as big of an issue. And here's the Cat of Nine Tails, which increases your shot speed. Now, this may not sound like a big thing, but if you think about it, shot speed decreases the travel time of your projectiles to their target. It effectively makes you more accurate. Unfortunately, only one shot speed upgrade is truly significant, and there are 3 in this game. There is the 8-ball, the speed ball, and the Cat of Nine Tails, so they do not stack with each other. That's one of the more disappointing aspects of Wrath of the Lamb, I do believe. I am going to go ahead and play this pill, and I scored Explosive Diarrhea, which provided me a free explosion to get into the secret room. Here we have a slot machine. One of my less favorite things about The Binding of Isaac, because they encourage you to stay in a location for a long period of time in return for resources and upgrades, which apparently, I'm not sure, but these may be getting phased out in place of the donation machine in Rebirth. Do not quote me on that. But as you can see, bombing it has its own advantages once you're out of money. These basically turn into an open chest when you blow them up. So the drops will be considerably similar. So now I am going to see what Mr. Satan has in store for me. And I actually rolled the Krampus here, who he is an optional boss that once per run will replace the regular Devil Room. He was added in a Christmas update, I do believe. Something small, simple, but Krampus is a weaker version of a boss called the Fallen, and he has 2 attacks. His first is what I lovingly dub his armpit crotch laser, or just armpit laser, and it's a 4-way shot, which he prefers to use when you've lined up with him. And the other move is this double shot, the 3-way, 4-way, which the 3-way you can dodge between fairly easily. The 4-way you generally want to move around or dodge the outside 2 tiers. And now I have Whore of Babylon activated, and I am close to death here. This fight is largely going to come down to avoiding those lasers and potentially getting Little Chub on the case, which I did. So when you beat the Krampus, he spawns the Lump of Coal, and it's a bit of an obscure power-up. What the Lump of Coal does is if you look at my tiers, the further your tiers move, the larger they grow. So at max distance, they do considerably more damage than up close. It kind of gives you a tier sniper effect. And the longer you can make the lifespan of your tiers, like by increasing your range, or getting homing tiers to make them veer around instead of just falling down, the longer they're out, the more damaging they become. I am going to go ahead and use my bomb here. Going to do a little bit of a multitasking, but I'm checking this wall below me for a super secret room, which we had not covered at this point, but in addition to the regular secret room, every floor has a super secret room that follows different rules and appears on the outside of the floor layout instead of inside. It also has different contents, but checking for that and also blowing open these rocks at the same time. And a bomb is typically worth 5 cents in the store, so that is a near one-to-one trade. All I have left for this floor now is the boss gauntlet, which you may be hesitant about exploring these because they only open when you have a heart container or less, but because they always have a pedestal item, and because the loot is drawn from the boss table, the item is almost always a heart container upgrade, so you will usually be given a little bit of mercy health to deal with the bosses. As for the enemies you will be facing, on the early floors you will always run into Monstro and 3 Larry Juniors. The Larrys are a little bit unique. I know I did show you those blue Larrys in my very first run. These Larry Juniors have 3 segments, but they have their back 2 merged together, so they actually are more durable than regular Larrys from the rear. You generally want to aim for their head. I call them headshot Larrys. Normal Larrys carry all their pieces behind them one by one and are much more vulnerable aimed at from behind. These ones you hit from the front to kill them fast. So sure enough, Monstro. And I really should have saved that for the Larrys. That was dumb of me. One thing about Isaac and some of its less popular items is they do have very situational uses, and they can be very powerful in those uses, but if you do not time them correctly, they do have the illusion of being useless. And Lemon Mishap is one of those. Now with this boss room, I'm going to be very careful about when I kill Monstro, because if I kill him and I am standing where the Larrys spawn, which is typically the compass directions and the corners, I will get hit. And I do not want that here. Although I have kind of gotten him into a rhythm of using his jump attack. And see there, if I had been in one of the corners or down in the center, I would have taken damage from these Larrys. Again, these are headshot Larrys, so as you see, I killed the head of that one, and his back 2 segments both die at once. Same deal there. But there are 2 segments in these, and if I did go after just the back half, it would take me twice as long. Which is a little bit deceiving, because normally it's the reverse for Larrys. Normally the head has more health, the back segments die as they split into singles, so just remember that. Boss Gauntlet Larrys go for the head. Regular boss Larrys go for the body segments. Here we have another trinket called Cancer, and Cancer's effect is to double your tier output. Isaac has kind of a diminishing returns effect on its upgrades. Cancer circumvents this. It's almost an exact ×2 of your tier output. So even at high tier rates, Cancer can be significant. And when you get over that hill is when Cancer becomes its best, right at that like hypothetical halfway point where you've got your tiers half as fast as they can possibly be, is when Cancer is most significant. So if you are still in the way of needing tier output upgrades, it's not as great. Once you've got 1 or 2 tier upgrades, Cancer is incredible. And particularly for characters who have high damage output to begin with, Cancer can be good. In Eve's case, not quite so useful right off the bat, since I don't have any tier upgrades or damage upgrades. And Eve's own powers work better with the help of health control, so I am going to hang on to Mom's Pearl. And Mom's Pearl in the long run is generally the better choice. There are some trinkets that are better to get early and hang on to, and some that are better to switch to in the late game. Cancer is one of those late game trinkets that you want to find after you've gotten a few goodies. So here I will grab the Faith Heart, and as tempting as it might be to unlock that store, I do have only 8 coins. So if I am not fortunate, I am going to be losing resources. Early game Isaac, to be strong, is largely about controlling your heart, coin, bomb, and key counts, more than what upgrades you get. One of the reasons Spear of the Night is so hyped up is it's very easy early flight, which allows you to conserve resources. The direct benefits of Spirit of the Night are not as significant, but the ability to fly around, for instance, holes to avoid damage, or to acquire power-ups, drops that are out of reach, is very big, especially on the second set, these caves and catacombs, where a large amount of the metagame is just having the ability to get these out-of-the-way resources. I'm going to leave this Faith Heart here for the moment. I have a special reason for that. I will explain in a bit if it becomes significant. Here we have ballsack flies, or fat flies as they're called, which are basically a tougher variant of pooters. They shoot this V-shaped shot, which if you stand still with pooters, I should say fat flies, the tears will go around you indefinitely unless you are point blank. So if you're surrounded by these, just wait patiently for an opening. The more you rush around, the more likely you'll get hit by things. Another reoccurring element, especially in the catacombs, is these red flames, which they shoot blood tears at you, so do be careful about that. It's quite easy to take unnecessary damage just because you weren't aware of the red flame in the room. So again, there's a key returning me a little bit. I did get a pedestal item here, not the one I really would have liked. A speed upgrade, which would be more valuable to Maggie, or even to one of the base characters like Isaac. What am I talking about, base characters? Isaac, Judas, and Maggie benefit most from speed upgrades. Cain, Samson, and Eve all have a little bit of a better speed to begin with, I do believe. So yeah, spiders there. I did get nicked. Took out a couple with the pea and my birdie. And oftentimes half the difficulty in the second set is just restricted movement area. As demonstrated in my last run, where I got like that long walkway with all those tough flies. Really the last thing you want to see with Eve, because her damage output is not good. So she can't get rid of those enemies in the way quickly if she cannot dodge. Dodging is half the game with Eve, just staying out of the way and letting her speed and technical power-ups save the day for you. I will grab this Faith Heart, just so I don't hurt my chances of a deal. And we actually had a champion fat fly there. And more bombs, but no keys. I'm going to go ahead and check for the secret room here, which unfortunately the secret room is not available at this time. Again, I keep calm. My main threat there was actually the spider, just because of its erratic movement. Fat flies, by comparison, are predictable, and they will always aim the gap centered at you. So if you are careful about your timing, the tears will go around you. But if you have to focus on dodging other types of enemies in the room, you're more likely to get hit. One of the major elements of survival in Isaac is simplifying the enemy distribution of the room. Just clearing it down to one type of enemy that all have the same behavior. And then the other half is just navigating obstacles, which is why flight can be such a huge power-up, especially on the second set here, where the main threat is just your limited movement. Here we have a knight, which is surprisingly early. This is an example of where Lemon Mishap can be useful, because knights are invincible from the front, and the front 180 degrees, so you have to think like a Team Fortress 2 spy and get backstabby on them, which unfortunately is not easy because they do have similar pathing to the Dark Nuts from Zelda, and try to always face their front half at you to walk into you. Again, we've got another setup where there are 3 rooms around this empty space, and that is how I find the secret room. And now I actually do have 15 coins, which is enough to assuredly buy a pedestal item from the store. Unfortunately, I have no keys here, so this is a bit of a resource rough run, where I didn't quite use my resources effectively. Gertie Jr. And we've got a champion version that doubles her, but she has less health. Gertie Jr. is comparative to a giant monster hockey puck. She aims to shoot at you and then reflects off walls as she does so. This version of Gertie cannot summon, but other versions will either have a fly or spider summoning ability, or the ability to produce tears. That one makes up for it with the number of Gerties. Another container upgrade, stem cells. Nothing really notable other than now I have a fetus growing out of my head for looks. Some people think maybe the fetus does something, like makes tears out of one side of your face more powerful, but that is not the case. It's just for aesthetics. It is a simple heart container upgrade. And unfortunately, I am not getting the luck with the devil rooms that I would have hoped for here. Eve, generally, for an effective playstyle, wants to have many soul hearts and very few red heart containers, so that she can easily activate her Whore of Babylon when she wants the extra damage. So items like Guppy's Paw, which trade containers for extra faith hearts, can be very valuable to her. When you play Eve, you want to think of red hearts more like mana. She is a blood mage type of character, because all of her base abilities sync up with taking damage and decreasing her health. So ideally, you want to sync her up with items that activate on damage. The Black Bean is a great item for Eve. The Dead Fish, which will allow her to accrue attack flies as she uses items like the IV Bag or Safety Razor, which are also keys. In a general Isaac run, there are different items that complement each other to form a build, and each character starts off with a few of these puzzle pieces. The key to a successful run is just knowing which puzzle pieces are the best to hold on to, and taking the extra stretch with your resources to acquire that one item or another, which occasionally you just can't help it, your luck is bad, and then you're boned either way. But that will be one of the great beauties of Rebirth, is retooling the generation of resources on floors to where they are more consistent. So you will not have as dramatically crappy runs. More to the point, they will be seeded runs. So you can take particularly easy or particularly challenging runs. And I am getting sandwiched quite badly here. One thing I would like to remark on, if you have never done an LP, some players may see LPers like myself or Northern Lion and wonder why, with all of our experience, we have a lot of flub-ups. And one of the dynamics is just announcing and commentating while you are also trying to focus on all of the activity in a room at once. And some brain patterns, some thinking types do not process multitasking so well. It's a very rub your tummy, pat your head sort of deal. It's almost like texting and driving. So do not think that we are this bad when we play on our own. But we do it for you, because we love you guys. So if we take a hit, just think, thanks KimonoBoxFox. You're doing this to be able to provide entertainment and maybe try and teach me a little. Not because you're like showing off like a jerk off, because I mean, I suppose I could do my runs and do them and then commentate separately. And the quality of the runs would be different, but I feel like I get a wider opportunity to use the game as a teaching tool by doing live runs. These are chubbers, and they were an enemy released in Wrath of the Lamb as a alternative version to the Vis, which typically appears in the depths. This is one of the worst rooms you can run into them in, that takes advantage of their boomerang mechanic. It's kind of ironic. I lived by the chub in that run, and now I have died by the chub. But as you can see, one of their major threats is simply that their attacks last longer and deny you more area to dodge in. So now I have procced the Curse of the Labyrinth, which fuses my Basement 1 and my Basement 2 together in one giant floor. This means I have more rooms to cover, and I will be fighting both bosses on the same floor. There are advantages and disadvantages to this. The major disadvantage of the Curse of the Labyrinth, and why I hate it so much, is despite fusing floors, you only get one store and one devil room per floor. And since the set counts as one floor, I am being cheated out of a store opportunity. I'm also being cheated out of a potential deal with the devil. There is a reason why this is not so bad, and that's because it's on the first set. And the very first floor, you will never have an assured deal with the devil. It will not spawn naturally on Basement 1 or Cellar 1. So that makes it not quite as bad, because I would normally miss out on that first deal with the devil anyway. But conversely, I may not get it anyway because it is the first floor. On the flip side, the good thing about a early labyrinth is that you will get more resources without having to progress floors, so you are less likely to miss out on a store or a loot room because you didn't have enough keys. But the bad thing is, normally you get a free loot room that is not locked. And if you get the labyrinth as your first set, both of the loot rooms are locked. So it does make things a little bit more challenging, but the overall outcome, resource-wise, can turn out better for a labyrinth. You may not be able to exploit it as much, but there's less of a chance of missing things you would have missed normally. So it just changes the dynamic of the floor considerably. more resource demanding, but less chance for missed resources. So yeah, I do have a key now, and I am going to hold off on checking that room for the moment. Got some easy Horfs I can just snipe from a distance. And with Horfs only trigger at about 2/3 of the screen. So if you can keep most of the screen between you and them, they will not be able to attack you. And unlike some of their upgraded, more difficult variants that you will run into later, they cannot move. So, you as the player should use your brain and not... Oh! And that is actually one of the rare times that a fly has eaten poop for me. But yes, use your brain. And don't make it easier for them to hit you. So let me explain what just happened here. And this is a less commonly seen hazard in Isaac. You will get these black passive flies and poop in rooms. And if the poop is not cleaned up quickly, flies will take a bite out of the poop and transform into pooters, which turns them into a greater threat. So poop can indirectly be dangerous to you. And we got a free half a heart there. So I will go ahead and explore some of these other floors. One thing to note about Curse of the Labyrinth rooms is they can spawn catty-corner to one another, whereas usually rooms cannot have this shape where they link in like a circuit on one another. That is a feature of Curse of the Labyrinth. And rooms that are set up like the one above me will never be unique rooms. Unique rooms always have to have empty space somewhere around them. Like on multiple sides. So that is one way that you can sort of intuit where a loot room or a boss room are going to be, is just by looking at the outline of the mini-map. And you can save yourself a few unnecessary encounters by going around some of these rooms, but again, they do spawn things from time to time when you kill all the enemies in them. And so, as Northern Lion would say, he who dares wins. It is very true, especially in early floors where having the resources early means not missing out on items later. See, like, I just got a free key there that I would not have gotten if I had passed over this room. And now that I do have a little bit of wiggle room in terms of keys, I am going to power myself up and check out what this loot room has in store. Here we've got Tough Love, which, for those of you who do play Team Fortress 2, this is comparative to turning on random crits. Occasionally you will spit out a tear, which does a massive amount of damage comparative to your regular tears. A very good item to find for Eve, because it does give me a little bit of grace in terms of dealing with tougher enemies. Here I have got kind of a semi-puzzle room, which that was really quite dickish of them to corner me with poop like that and randomly shoot at me, but hey, it's a roguelike, it's random, you can't predict everything that's going to happen. But it basically challenges you to think about how you tackle the enemies. Like, I could have just broken the poop and gone after the gushers. I mean, the gapers here. These are a variant of gapers, by the way. And I am going to send my birdie in to kill them, rather than having them chase after me. But as demonstrated, their gapers can turn into gushers. And if I had gone after the poop first, I would have had gapers chasing me in addition to the extra gushers. So sometimes the rooms make you think about how to approach their design. 4 attack flies, and also a Horf in the center of the room. That's H-O-R-F in case you're wondering. Horf for the the vomit noise they make. And another free key there. Quite nice. I will, of course, be having a considerably reduced chance of a devil room, although I am not sure which floor's rules the labyrinth follows, whether you absolutely cannot get a devil room because it's merged with the first floor, or whether it is treated as a regular floor since it's merged. Either way, I typically assume I will not find a natural devil room on a labyrinth. Now here we have a good demonstration of how hoppers get more powerful, which may get me killed if I am not very, very careful about how I path here and avoid these guys. And hoppers that are on fire become aggressive, and if they wander in your area, they will begin leaping after you, similar to trites. So again, room generation can make ordinarily innocent enemies much more dangerous. If I had had bombs here, I probably would have tried to blow up these fires before some of them could have gotten lit, but you do what you can with what you got. Here's a great item for Eve, the Infestation, which, when it is a passive item, when you are damaged in any way, shape, or form, you will spawn friendly attack flies, which travel with you and home in on enemies. Again, I am not being given a lot of mercy as far as the room generation goes here. I've been getting a lot of claustrophobic rooms where the enemies are set up with advantageous situations. Here we got one of the 4 Harbingers, Famine, who was added in a Halloween update for the game, along with Sheol, which is the floor after the womb, alternative to the cathedral. And Famine has 2 moves in this form. The first is if you are vertically related to him, above or below him, he spawns up to 2 flies at a time, pooters or fat flies. And he will continue summoning as long as you share that directional relationship regarding to where he is. The other move he has is if you move to the left or right of him, he will engage a dash move. All of the Harbingers have a downgrading phase-based combat mechanic, where they will lose a part of their body when you deal enough damage to them. When they get to the second stage, they change their moves. Famine now only has 1 move, which is he shoots a 3-way shot, similar to how a Horf would operate, only it has the 2 side shots as well. As long as you keep your movement steady and constant without shifting backwards, you can outrun his 3-way shot. The other theme with the Harbingers is, at least with Famine, Pestilence, War, and Death, they all spawn only Cube of Meat as their item. So, if you're familiar with the D6 from runs with another LPer, the D6 rerolls items, but no matter how many times you reroll, this is the only item that will appear in the item bank for a room that has had a Harbinger boss in it. So once you get this, you're stuck with it, but it is useful. The first thing it does is it acts as a tear shield, so if blood tears touch this, they will be neutralized. It is also damaging, so if an enemy gets close to me up in my grill, the meat cube does significant damage to the enemy. I am going to go back here, and well, unfortunately this is blocked in. I have an alternative here. I could play it safe and go to the store and see if they have a heart to keep me alive, which would be quite wasteful as far as monetary resources go. But there also is this heart at the far left, which may be useful if I can pick it up. I can't remember if that's encircled with rocks or not. It is not. Now let's talk about another feature of Eve. When Whore of Babylon is active or inactive, I guess I should say. It activates when you first get knocked down to half a heart of damage, and as long as you maintain that state, it will stay that way. You will also remain in horror mode as long as you stay in the room in which it started out active. But if you ever change rooms when you have more than half a red heart, as I just did, it deactivates. So now I am smaller, I am a harder target to hit. Unfortunately, I do not deal as much damage, and I am a little bit slower now. But in a crazy, hectic room with a lot of smaller, weaker enemies like flies or spiders, this Terran or Mundane Eve, I guess you would call it, is the better form to take. Against single enemies with more health like Famine that are tanky but not particularly hard to dodge, the larger Eve would be preferable. Here I'm going to go and say smaller is probably better. This Champion Larry has the added ability to spit a blood tear. In addition to this creepy green ooze he's emitting, which doesn't really do anything, but it is interesting to note. And these are not headshot Larrys. These Larrys only have one segment per segment, so attacking their individual parts, their body parts, which have less health, is the more fruitful maneuver. Makes them harder to hit you since they have less collision, less hitboxes, I guess you would say. And I have activated core mode here now. And of course, if you split a part and there are no parts attached, even if it has full health, it will self-destruct. So always go for the center parts with Larry Jr.'s that you fight in a boss room. Like, see his back end just completely disintegrated there, and his middle part disintegrated too. I will not be getting a Devil Room this time around because of the way the floor generated. And it actually seems that stem cells might have a shot speed upgrade to it. One factor when Wrath of the Lamb was released with a lot of its items is Wrath of the Lamb's material had to be salvaged because Flash, the format for Flash, could not handle a large degree of the content that Edmund Macmillan was trying to convert. And a lot of the content for Wrath of the Lamb ended up getting corrupted. So they did have to go back and rehash it in a way that was not quite as good. And one example of this is in the fact that some item descriptions are wrong for Wrath of the Lamb items normally. I am playing this on Spider Mod, which I guess you would say is a redacted Binding of Isaac. It has fixes that redescribe some of the items. And apparently Stem Cells is not just a heart container upgrade. On top of making me even more hideous than I already was on account of Tough Love and the Infestation, it apparently makes my shots move faster. Much like 8-Ball or Cat o' Nine Tails or Speedball. So that's the fourth item that upgrades shot speed. A demonstration of when the cursed room does not pull through for you. Sometimes you will get simply spiders or troll bombs. And a lot of things in early Binding of Isaac are more of a gamble. And it's an educated gamble that you have to learn to take, and that's what I'm here to help you do. So you know what the Brimstone-esque positive outcomes of daring are, and the face full of spiders-esque negative aspects of daring are. And this would be a face full of spiders situation. We'll just call it that: face full of spiders and Brimstone. Brimstone good, spiders bad. Brimstone good, spiders bad. As you may have noticed, I do have a friendly attack fly who will follow with me. You can only carry a maximum of 5 of them between rooms. Just something to keep in mind. but he will stay with me quite faithfully until he kamikazes into an enemy that is tougher than he can handle. So I'm back on the catacombs now. And these are gurgles, which are a tougher, explosive-spewing version of gapers. They are slightly slower than gapers, considerably tougher, and they do not break into a weaker form when they are destroyed, ever. They are immune to explosive damage, at least from Ipecac bombs. And, well, their own Ipecac bombs, anyway. Hostile explosives. So they're similar to Wrath in that, or Pride in that respect. This is a trinket, the Tick, which I will not be able to remove this once I acquire it. It is disadvantageous for Eve, because it will force you out of Whore of Babylon mode when you enter into a boss room. What it does is it steals a heart worth of healing to give to you to recover your resources when you encounter a boss. And it takes about, I would say, 15 to 20% of a boss's health off of them. So bosses will always be less durable when you go into a fight with them equipped with the Tick.
Virus database has been updated.
So it's just a little bit of an opening edge that you can have. It can be beneficial for some characters with a lot of containers to fill. Like Maggie, it's not a bad idea to grab the Tick with Maggie. Especially because it refills her already existing... Holy tits, I cannot believe that I used knockback to escape that damage there. Another pro tactic, knockback, to force enemies the way you want them to go, and buy yourself room. Especially lighter airborne enemies. But yes, certain items, trinkets, and even passive items favor certain characters more than others, just based on what they get to start with. And Eve does not usually have a lot of heart containers to fill. The Tick can be nice for giving her a little bit of mana once you've got that whole Blood Mage thing set up, but it does deny you the benefit of an immediate Whore of Babylon, so do make sure you have an ability to deplete that red health again before you go ahead and take it. And in the case of the Tick, there's also the fact that it denies you access to a different trinket later, unless you get Mom's Purse, since you can normally only have one trinket at a time. So there's another reason why it is not popular. And here we have a nice little upgrade, Loki's Horns, which increases my tear rate slightly, and occasionally I will spew out a 4-way shot. So even more help for those situations where you're sandwiched. Now I have got green blobs, bulges. I'm trying to remember because each of them has a slightly different name. The red ones are called boils, and the white ones that spew spiders are called sacks. I always have a little bit of trouble remembering the name of those ones. A good deal of playing better in Isaac is not so much focusing on what you're shooting as where you are standing and moving. Your tiers are pretty consistent, and the way they are aimed is based on the direction you're moving. They share your momentum, so if you're moving left, as you move left and face a certain way, your tiers are going to take on the momentum of the direction you're moving. So moving left and firing down, the tiers are going to angle down into the left. Same if I start moving right. And the more momentum you get into as you move, the greater the angle of the movement. And a good part of aiming is just knowing where the tier is going to be moving in respect to you as you're moving evasively. Like, if I'm just moving in a straight fix left and right, my shots are always going to be moving straight ahead and pushing enemies back. Whereas if I'm moving slightly down or up, they're going to take on that angle which may allow me to evade like a shooty enemy, or it may allow me to fire between rocks, which yes, you can do. I may get a chance to demonstrate that in future runs. It's not typically something so commonly seen once you are on later floors. Typically you do it more on the basement and cellar. I'm going to go ahead and kill these immobile sacks. And one thing to think about with these boil-type enemies is they can only use their move when they are at their final stage of full growth. So if you shoot them once, you're effectively stunning them. And they themselves are harmless. The walking ones can hurt you, and the walking ones do not regenerate or shrink, so they're almost a slightly different kind of enemy. But yeah, if you get into a situation where you have an enemy that spawns these things like Gertie or Widow, you can stun them just by shooting them once, and then redirect your fire somewhere more important while they are stunned. I will check out the store here, and they are offering a Faith Heart, which I'm going to use as shielding, so that I don't have to worry about setting off that the red flag where I've taken red heart damage and hurt my chances for Devil Room. And here we've got one of our first mini-bosses of my LP, Envy. Envy is actually one of the more tedious of the 7 Deadly Sin mini-bosses that you will fight. And all he really is asteroids. You kill him, he'll break into 2 pieces. Kill that piece, he'll break into 2 more. Ideally, to deal with Envy without getting hurt, you always want to focus down the most weakened, smallest piece. And if you do that, you will never fight more than 4 enemies at a time in the room with Envy. One thing to remark is he does have a champion form, Super Envy, which Super Envy pieces split into 3s instead of 2s. But only the first 2 pieces do. So if I kill this piece, it's only going to split into 2 anyway. So it's pretty much just a different color, and that's the only thing that makes it different. But if I got like that size of Super Envy, he would split into 3 of the next stage of piece. The last 2 don't. The last 2 are pretty much just like regular Envy pieces. I may get a chance to demonstrate that more effectively. You don't really get a visual demonstration of how Super Envy pieces behave here. Again, another Super Envy piece that's unremarkable. Although, if I look at it, it does look like Super Envy pieces do have a little bit more health than their normal variations. And these readings on damage and these health bars are actually not a normal feature of the game if you are a first-timer to Isaac. This is from SpiderMod. So, yeah, if you want to check out SpiderMod, SpiderMod can be a useful reference utility. If you're one of those types who says, this game is too hard, I want to see what it has to offer for me, SpiderMod is like Game Genie. It does let you break the game. I don't recommend it because it ruins the excitement of unlocking the items progressively, which is an element you won't really see in these first few runs of mine because I have unlocked almost everything. I may even reset my run soon just to give you a feel of what it will be like playing Isaac for the first time. Going back to Envy, Envy usually does not have very good loot. Rarely he will spawn a treasure room item, which the most common ones you will see are Shoop-da-Whoop. Yes, that is the classic internet meme. And yes, it will make me fire my laser. Or my laser. Fire my laser! Bah! But the other one that you will often get is Distant Admiration, or Halo of Flies, or Forever Alone, which are all fly-based items that are useful. I have kind of been disfavored in regard to the deal with the devil, so I am going to save my Faith Heart and try to get it here, so my hearts don't pile up. Again, I'm going for Eve, so I want a low heart container playstyle. Because she favors getting the deals to power herself up. Did a little bit of damage to Peep here. Another of the classic Caves bosses. He will appear on the Catacombs as well, as they do have a shared enemy bank. And Peep is a more aggressive alternative to Monstro. He has a similar tear spattering jump, where he jumps toward your location. He doesn't have a scattergun where he direct shots at you, but the tears go straight instead of flying, so they do demand a little bit more preparedness on your part. One of the main factors of Peep is as he takes damage, his eyes pop out, as drones similar to my dead bird. They do deal damage. They cannot be killed, and if my dead bird pops out, they will attract the bird away. So Peep is one of the more dangerous bosses to fight with Eve as against. And of course the other move of Peep's is to urinate, which that creep is damaging, and Peep will pee while you are directly over top of where his creep would appear, so it is very important that you keep your distance. At about a third of his health, his other eyeball pops out, which makes this really a hectic fight. One thing to remark with Peep is he usually gets this 2-bar set piece with the rocks, and he cannot jump through the rocks to get to you, even though he is going into the air. So if you're standing between him and the rocks, you are generally safe from his jump and his tear attacks, but not from his urination or his eyes. Peep has some of the best attack coverage of any of the bosses, so he is one of the more dangerous bosses to fight. And one of the ones you usually will complain a lot about if you end up getting him. I personally hate the Husk more, but he is rivaled with the Husk for my least favorite bosses to fight. And yes, he does require a lot of keep away, making him a rather tedious boss at times. If you get impatient and get aggressive to get more damage in on him, you will usually end up getting urinated on, or you will get bumped into by the eyeballs. Like right there, I got a little bit antsy and got too close, and now I'm regretting it as a result. On the bright side, my infestation is triggering, and my bird activated. Here's a big wet blanket, which has been complained about in Northern Lion's worst 10 items. It is a bit of a wet blanket, getting 7 or 8 coins to spawn when I went through all that trouble. And it looks like this is not going to be a very favorable Eve run. The infestation is helping. The cube and the good lord, what is it? The Tough Love are helping, but I am just not getting the Devil Room opportunities that I ought to really bring Eve over the edge. And a good portion of playing Eve well is overcoming that weak damage. She really is one of those characters who wants to get that 1 or 2 deals just to have the extra power. Or maybe even just a loot room power-up, like an odd mushroom or technology or something. And when you don't get that, she does suffer to a degree. Kind of had a little bit of a double-pronged strategy there. Blew open the slot machine and blew my way out. So again, I am conserving resources so I don't have to hurt myself there. And it's on to the second floor of the set. Which, this will be the furthest I have gotten in my LPs thus far. It's certainly not the furthest I've been in my plays of Binding of Isaac overall, as I have completed the game in entirety, the chest, floor, which I'll try not to spoil too much of. Curse of Darkness here. But yes, I have quite a lot of road time on this. Just not a lot of LP time. And I was kind of shy about getting into the matter for a long time, and I finally just said, screw it, I'm not getting any younger. If I'm going to do it, may as well do it. Here we have an alternate version of mulligans that will appear, Mullabooms. They are considerably aggressive and will explode on touch. It's about 4 to 5 shots as Eve to cause them to detonate, and they usually go off in that kind of a crazy chain reaction, so do be careful. They can be very useful for blowing open rocks or even walls to the secret room. And I now have assorted boil-type enemies, all walking. I did want to get that sack out of there to begin with, just so I wouldn't be getting more enemies added to the room. And now I've got the green bulges gone, and the red boils are almost dealt with. And here are butt lickers. These are functionally Larry Jr.'s that can survive when they are split into multiple pieces. Once again, the room layout is kind of being dickish, and I don't have flight. And room layout is always a much more impactful element before you get flight upgrades, since your dodging room is limited. Another reason why flight is incredible, and early access flight particularly, Spirit of the Hype and whatnot. Whoa! And again, there is a bit of an element in Isaac of using enemies to your advantage for resource collection. Explosive enemies like gurgles, mullabooms, even bulges can all get you access to the things you want without using up your own resources, your own bombs or keys. Thinning out the room of spiders a little bit there. And a major reoccurring factor of the catacombs, in addition to the red flames and largely explosive enemies, are these corny poops with eternal flies that restrict your movement. These white, or eternal flies as they are called, are invincible in this state, and they do not become attack flies until you kill the poop itself. When they do become attack flies, they are much stronger than regular attack flies. They take 6 hits to a normal attack flies 2 for regular Isaac. For Eve, it is potentially slightly more, although I do have tough love here. But yeah, base damage, these flies take 6 hits, so expect them to be considerably tougher. Again, we got this thematic layout of mixed enemies, attack spiders and fat flies. And once you get the spiders out of the room, which are pushing you to move and dodge into tiers, the fat flies go down quite easily because you can keep your distance. Much like with Horfs, for that matter. Here we have a room full of sacks, which, provided I keep my distance, I don't have to worry about any spiders getting dished out and getting in my face. This would actually be one of the easier rooms on this floor thus far. And I did get a half heart out of that, in case I need it later. For this blood donation would be a good example of when I could use it, which we will get to when we deal with the boss here. Yet another half heart. And because I have Curse of Darkness here, I'm going to take a quick one-over of the floor, just to make sure I have not missed anything. like these gurgles, which are going to get shooped out of their whoop. And another free key. Being given quite a lot of keys there. There's the chubbers that ruined my last run, but fortunately this is a much more open floor, and I am an idiot, and I would rather talk than dodge things, apparently. There's Alpeitis in play again. Here we've actually got a champion chubber, which hopefully will give us some resources here. One thing you've got to watch for with chubbers, as compared to Vis, which I haven't shown you any Vis in this run yet, they fire lasers like brimstone, is chubbers do not give any auditory warning when they shoot. So you may even run into their attacks as they have been fired without realizing it. Here we have Mom's Pad, which is another spacebar item that is charged, so I will switch out. Mom's Pad frightens enemies away from you, makes them run. Effectively, it freezes them in place and repulses them away from you. Here we have a good example. Now these keepers, these greed heads, are running away from me instead of attacking. And greed was running away from me there, which bought me a little bit of time. I really should have prioritized super greed, to be honest. And super greed, unlike regular greed, rather than spawning hoppers, does spawn these keepers. Either of them will cause you to drop 2 coins and permanently lose a coin. It's generally more prescient to fight greed. Actually, in greed's case, he makes you drop 3 coins. It's generally more prescient to fight the summoner before the summonees. Greed will continue to use the summoning mood frequently since he only has 2 moves. If you do end up dropping your money all over the floor, just leave it there. Unlike the thieves in A Link to the Past, your drop money will not be picked up by greed or either the keepers or any of the other thief-type enemies in this game. And greed usually compensates you with a generous amount of money. He does steal away the store for the floor, which is quite bad. But he's basically meant to be a balancing feature to keep you from getting too powerful with stores. So now that I have taken some red heart damage on this floor, I could play this donation machine right off the bat, but I think I will play it the newbie way here, simply because I've taken such a beating already, and I will go into this room with all the health I can. The Wretched here is a more difficult undead version of Widow, who rather than spawning sacks or small spiders, creates these larger split spiders. She has that 10-way shot, similar to Peep, and she fires out trites. So she actually spawns a much more mobile and aggressive set of enemies. Usually by the time you run into her, she dies very quickly compared to Monstro. This will be one of the situations where this is not the case, as I am playing with Eve with a lesser damage output, and I have not really been given the most favorable set of item or resource spawns. Plenty of resources, not enough to use them on. And I am being literally face raped here by all these oncoming spiders. That trite just slammed right into my cube of meat, which is an example of where cube of meat can be handy. Here is the box, which spawns one of every type of drop in the game. You will see there's a coin, a heart, a key, a bomb, a pill, a card, and a trinket. And the box always spawns one of each of these in some variation. For instance, For the heart, I've got a Faith Heart here. Trinket, I've got Child's Heart, which increases the spawn rate on red hearts. And a key, a bomb, a coin, a card, and a pill, which I'm going to taste now. And it is explosive diarrhea. So, having cleared this boss, I am coming around the 45-minute mark, I believe. I will wrap up this run, and I will see you in a while. So, toodles, have a good one.